Hey, welcome back to another taste of Snake Island. Cup of coffee. So, when I got back from Kodiak, I was delighted to find out that I had actually gotten my final payment because I'd been asked by Sig Sauer to write 2 articles for their upcoming magazine for their clients who have purchased the Legion type of firearm line. And so the 2 pistols that I asked for, first one was the 1911 Emperor Scorpion, which did come in, but there was an issue with it. I sent it back to the factory because it's 100% guarantee and warranty. And I'm waiting for that one to come back because it is my new favorite EDC. But my second pistol from Sig is the one that just came in when I got back from Kodiak, and that is the TAC Ops P226. And this is actually kind of a tribute because I got excited about this because of a friend of mine who's sadly departed, Officer Ed Stating of the Homer Police Department. And you'll notice in the opening of my book that I actually pay tribute to him at the open for all the help that he provided. And I was hoping to shoot this with him, but as we know, we don't live too long on this planet. But it's tricky for some people to understand the difference between a strike fire, a single action, and a DA. So you get the DASA. This is a DASA, which is a double action, single action, which means, let's clear that chamber, make sure it's all clear, clear. Put your finger in, all safe. And you drop down the hammer, and it's now prepared to be a DA type of firearm. So, when you squeeze the trigger, the hammer comes back, and it fires. And when it's cycled, it'll actually end up in this position, ready to go, which makes a very, very, very light trigger. Very nice and light trigger. Okay. But it's interesting, a lot of people have problems with shooting these things. And part of it is when you draw your weapon and you are pushing forward on it and you have it in the DA, you want it to be coming back. So see, my finger is coming back on the trigger as I'm pushing forward. So by the time I get on target, it's straight on. See, so it's like pulling, and you actually from shooting here, that's first shot for me. Next shot might be here, depending on distance to target, and then last one's right there. But if you're pulling straight and you got one at range, as you're coming up, you're squeezing back on the trigger. See, it's already at this point. It's about halfway back. So by the time it gets to on sight, boom, and there's no movement. So you do a lot of dry firing with this weapon. And you'll notice, because squeezing the trigger over and over and over like that, and contrast to squeezing the trigger with the hammer back already, it takes some strength to keep on doing that. That's actually why, if you want, you got those exercise grips that you work with. That's a good way to improve your shooting skills with any type of handgun. But I'm pretty excited about this, and I'll probably be putting some sandpaper on these grips. I just have a habit of doing all my grips is sandpaper. But Hogue has promised to send me their Piranha grips, which is what I have on the Scorpion, which is a phenomenal grip. Have no interest in putting any sandpaper on that one, and when I get those Magnus Piranhas from Hogue, it'll be the same situation. That's a good grip. But if I were to keep this type of grip, I'd automatically put some sandpaper on it. It's just habit. And put on both sides. You never put it on the back end because you always want to be able to get purchase on your weapon when you're pulling it from your holster. So you want to pull in, get purchase, and then begin to pull out. So purchase, and then you're bringing up. Okay? So that's just a little quickie before we get back to the subject of Treasure Quest Snake Island. Now, the thing that got me really chapped is the idea that Discovery is trying to pull this book. So I'm not joking when I say in the sales page. Get your copy now because Discovery is trying to yank this book. They don't want you to know the truth. Okay? Pick up So You Want to Be a Reality TV Star, Everything I Learned About Sex, Drugs, Fraud, Rock and Roll, and Vipers as Team Leader of Discovery Channel's Treasure Quest Snake Island by Cork. Okay? The reason they don't want you to find out about this book is because of all the information that's about the whole industry. It's not just about Discovery. And that's the thing about it. Is let me read you the counter to their countersuit. We're getting into the countersuits, and I'm waiting for the countersuit. But just to get started with this right now, there is in the circuit court for Montgomery County, Maryland, because that's where you go after Discovery if you want to go after Discovery. Frederick Court Graham, plaintiff versus Discovery Communications Incorporated et al. And we say et al. Because remember that plausible deniability we were talking about earlier in a previous episode, in episode 4? Well, that's how they do it. They play different games with the entities, either to dump money, to dump responsibility. And they play the game because remember, David Zaslav, his training initially is a lawyer. So that's how he got going. And there's two kinds of lawyers. There's those who believe in the rule of law and how it's supposed to create a society. And then there are others who think that you learn the rules in order to break them. And I'll leave it up to your own imagination as to who's who. But let me read you the comment back, because they're trying to say that my book is all about Discovery, and it's the amazing thing is that they're saying that I am breaking the confidentiality rules, contract, agreement, and in so doing, offering up business secrets. So you're telling me fraud is a business secret and misrepresentation is a business secret? If that's how you run a company, that's pretty freaking wild. But let's describe what's in this book per the countersuit. So it says, as said, plaintiff Graham has not violated any confidentiality clause because the information discussed in his new book is outside the agreement. And frankly, I don't believe that the agreement is even binding, because there is no agreement that keeps you silent on criminal activity, is there? Maybe with the mafia, but even the mafia enforces it in a different way. Further, a defendant, DTS, and see, DTS is yet another name for Discovery, fails to cite any part, portion, chapter, excerpt, or otherwise of the book which they contend violates the confidentiality clause. The following topics are discussed in the book: a show, Dual Survival, lawsuits regarding that show, the stabbing and killing of dogs by Joseph Tetai while filming the show Dual Survival. This happened in Bolivia, by the way. Bolivia is not a good place for Discovery, man. Sacambaya. Whoa, that was like, there's supposed to be season 3, and who's the cast? Oh, the only one who's still on the show is the person that I believe, in my honest opinion, is the major criminal on the show. Anyway, if his record showed what I know, and you know now if you've read the book, portion, chapter, excerpt, or otherwise of the book which I contend violates the confidentiality clause. The following topics, etc., etc., etc. While filming the show Dual Survival, the promoting of Joseph Tetai's false military credentials by Discovery Channel, LLC, the misrepresentation for profit of these things by Discovery, communications or its subsidiaries to the public, the issuance of a lifetime Texas protective order against Joseph Tetai on behalf of my birthday brother, Michael Hawk, Captain Michael Hawk, retired, plaintiff Graham's paramilitary background, plaintiff Graham's background fighting communists in Central America in the 1980s, about the show Hunting Hitler. Yeah, that brings up Tim Kennedy. Man, it just gets deeper and deeper. About Sue Aiken's lawsuit against National Geographic for the show Life Below Zero. I guess she's resolved it. About the show Alaska, The Last Frontier, about the show Gold Rush, about the show Bering Sea Gold, about the show Alaskan Bush People, about the news media industry. And by the way, while we talk about that subject, where are they? Think about this. This is one of the most impacting news stories about building and losing trust in the public that I have ever encountered. And you've got every press agency quiet about it. And don't think it's because I haven't tried. Remember, I work for AP. I freelanced for AFP. I freelanced for Reuters. Not one of them came up. At one point, I thought I had a freaking follow down in LA with the entertainment writer for AP, and that went silent. So I guess Dave Zasloff and Discovery terrifies everybody, which that's kind of scary if you really think about it. About the news media, about the Associated Press, about Reuters, about lawyers, about Agence France Presse, that's AFP, about plaintiff Graham's childhood in Vietnam and his experiences during the Tet Offensive and an inaccurate reporting of it in America, about plaintiff Graham's prison experience in Vietnam during the 1980s, about plaintiff Graham's post-traumatic stress disorder, about plaintiff Graham's experiences of being stalked in person and online by co-star Jeremy Whalen, and Whalen's brother after the filming of Season 2 of Treasure Quest, about plaintiff Graham's days in college, about stolen valor in the television industry, and other materials not related to the confidentiality clause from the underlying contract of the underlying show, Treasure Quest. Plaintiff Graham also discusses the violations and illegal actions done by or on behalf of the Discovery defendants, including defendant DTS for profit, including actions violating the international law governing purloinment and illicit handling of cultural object pursuant to the Rome Convention. That's Unidroit. That's actually where Jeremy and his brother's smuggling of artifacts onto Season 2 in Argentina. Remember the stuff you saw on the show? Part of it was created by the art director, and then the other part were real. The other parts were real. But guess what? They were grave robbed from an Incan grave in Peru, and then requested by Jeremy and his brother to be smuggled by Jeremy's brother by land using the typical drug routes of smuggling into Argentina. So you're getting a really good background on the Whalen brothers right now. And I'm just blown away. I got to get back on this because that's the reason I wrote the book. The same reason I wrote Bamboo Chess in the first place. I wrote about it because I could get everything nailed down and you could follow a line of what happens and what happened. And when you read my book, So You Want to Be a Reality TV Star, you will know how it happened, why it happened, and what is continuing to happen. It's basically a game of intimidation, but I guess I must be intimidating back because they're really pissed. And what I learned about fighting war is the best thing you can do to your enemy is to freak him out so he gets pissed, because anger is fear, and fear is my ally. Possible violations of the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. Other domestic laws of the United States of America and other international treaties and conventions. Plaintiff Graham discusses being made to work by or on behalf of the Discovery defendants in violation of work visa laws of the host countries. Did you know they had us working on tourist visas in Argentina and played this game of like, oh, well, that's the way it's supposed to work. And I go, really? Yeah, so you're thinking, why are they playing this game with us? And also illegal border crossing in the furtherance of filming of the show Treasure Quest. Yeah, when they're filming us back and forth with the falls of Sacundaí. That's over in Paraguay. And we only had one visa at one moment. And then the rest of that was actually shot, quote, illegally by Discovery. It gets deeper. If you haven't bought the book yet, I'm telling you, pick up the book. Get a copy for yourself. It's Christmas time's coming. Order it now and it'll be ready for you to hand out. Hand it out to the people that you care about, especially if they watch reality TV. Because when they read this book, they will not be watching reality TV anymore. And if that's the best thing I can do for society, that will be the greatest accomplishment I can think of, is to help society by destroying reality TV, because it is the bane of our society. It has set us up for fake news. It set us up for the chaos that we have in our society right now. And if you agree, get a copy of the book, read it yourself, see what I'm talking about in there, and get copies for your friends. Christmas time's coming, and I can't think of anything better than get them a book that opens the door to some enlightenment. Defendants DTS cannot enforce a contract that binds a person to participate in illegal activities or actions. Such a contract is void ab initio. The entire talent services agreement is void ab initio if defendants DTS is using it to conceal their illicit activities. So that's the deal. It makes me question now, even further. How can a judge throw out negligence if that's actually one of the things that we're bringing up in terms of how can you hire somebody, i.e. Brett Tudor, who has a fictitious background, and he wasn't a security consultant. He's not a survival expert. I mean, talk to my birthday brother Michael Hawk. He's a real survival expert. And as I say in the book, Jeremy and Brett couldn't even start a fire. Remember that scene that was all set up of me like, oh, I'm taking a shower in the waterfall? Yeah, that was set up too. It's all crap. And it's just mind-blowing how much money they're making. And they only make it as long as you keep it secret. So spread the word. Subscribe now. Go over and visit me over at www.corkgram.com/news. And I will give you the latest info. As a matter of fact, a copy of this countersuit and all the suits are going to be available for your own personal reading because it's now public record. And then you should ask journalists, why are they not covering it? Because see, one of the reasons that journalists are afraid of covering is that they don't really want it. There is no breaking of stories anymore. Basically, it's either a pay-to-play, which is how you get on shows, on TV shows and radio shows to talk. That's how I got on these shows when I was on Treasure Quest. That was all paid for by Discovery. It's like, oh, well, we got this new interview with Cork Graham, team leader of Treasure Quest. Well, that's pay-to-play, which makes me question things about People magazine picking Brett Tudor as one of the sexiest men alive, because what that means is that Discovery is still grooming Brett Tudor as one of the little golden boys, which means that they will do anything they can, just in the same way that they groomed Joe Tetai. And remember, Joe Tetai basically killed two people. Good friends of Michael Hawk was one of them. They're both in the Army together, both in Special Forces. They both are combat buddies. Donatelli, CSM Donatelli, former CAG / used to be called Delta Force, but CAG, and he got killed in a helicopter accident with two other guys. It's a very sad event. Thankfully, the family got paid off. But in the meantime, Tetai continued to be on dual survival because they bankrolled all this money into him. Kind of like they were doing with Brett Tudor on getting him on Trading Spaces, in my honest opinion. I think this whole thing is about where have they spent money and where are they hoping to get more money out, which it behooves them to keep Brett Tudor, even with all his stolen valor and all his lies about his background, his inability to do things, i.e. start a fire in the jungles of Argentina, which any Boy Scout, I learned how to start a fire like that as a Cub Scout. You probably did too. You could survive in the jungles of Argentina, but Brett Tudor, in my honest opinion, could not. Until next time, check me out, www.corkgram.com/news, and we'll be back next because supposedly I'm going to be deposed by Discovery in Maryland in January. So when you go into battle with me, look at my psychology. And part of that psychology is, let's go way back to Vietnam. And a little scene that made my friend Wick Turson, just in remembrance of Wick. Wick was the investigator from POWMIA division at the Pentagon, otherwise known as JCRC, which is Joint Casualty Resolution Center. And Wick told me that the person who would then later become the Undersecretary of State under Clinton, by the name of Peter Tarnoff, who was one of the few Americans allowed to see me, who was the only American allowed to see me until I was released back in 84. He said, this guy just doesn't know how to shut up. So think about that. I was being threatened with execution. I was being threatened that I'd never get out of Vietnam. And I was pissed off that they were keeping us in a hole. And as a fact, my eyesight was getting screwed up. My skin was getting all eaten up by the frickin' fungus. And you think I'm going to keep my mouth shut and not speak up about, hey, they're not letting us have any sunlight? And that's what Tarnoff was actually kind of like, why doesn't he keep his mouth shut about that? Because basically right after that, I said, I think the reason is it's because of bureaucracy. So you guys throw in a little bit after that. So if you think I'm going to keep quiet about all this stuff, Discovery has got another thing coming. So I'll see you probably tomorrow. And if you haven't picked up a copy of So You Want to Be a Reality TV Star, everything I learned about sex, drugs, fraud, and rock and roll and Vipers as team leader of Discovery Channel's Treasure Quest Snake Island. Get a copy. Get a copy now. Get a copy as Christmas presents because this is a damn good read. Enjoy.